Good morning, YouTubers, and welcome to another Ramble by me. This one is actually going to come with a too long didn't listen statement. If you're just here for the proof that I fucked up, then there's a link in the description box to the actual proof, and you don't have to listen to the rest of this. This is just me talking about my thoughts regarding all this. And yeah, if you just want that and you just want to like go burn, pwn, then yeah, just click there. The file will be called wrongsuspectgate.mp4. It's a little bit ironic because I don't think that I'm important enough for a gate, but it happened. What happened? For those of you who don't know, which is half the people watching this, last night, a friend of mine who shares a lot of interests with me, who I met at the Occupy movement in 2011. His name is Joel. He does a lot of good pop locking dances. I can't do them. I was like Vogue, wasn't I? He shared a photo of a guy who was not the guy who killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. He was not the police officer, but his docs were released by Anonymous, specifically the Twitter channel The Anon Message. So, in following the story of Mike Brown and the protesters that are marching right now for justice because they believe that he was wrongfully shot by a police officer, which it seems to be the case by all of the eyewitness accounts of what happened when the shooting occurred. In following that, I noticed that Anonymous were saying that they had the policeman's information and they were going to release it if the police chief didn't. Which now, in hindsight, they were bluffing, and it was always a chance that they were bluffing. But they were saying things like, before we release this, we've got to make sure it's the right guy. Yeah, and then 24 hours later, they're like, okay, we've got the right guy, and you better say it or we will, I have no way of knowing what they did in that amount of time to zero in on who they outed as their suspect. And I said as much in my Facebook post, but later they gave an ultimatum. The ultimatum wasn't met, and then they released a photo with all of this guy's docs. Now, this guy may or may not even be a police officer if you follow some of the smaller news sources that have been talking about this. But it's the wrong guy, because this morning the police chief of Ferguson fingered someone else and said that it's that guy, and no disciplinary actions have been taken on the guy, and a few more facts about why a police officer would have been there came out, such as there was a strong-arm robbery where the two people that were stopped by the police officer were matching a description of the suspects, and the one who lived through this police shooting has actually admitted that Mike Brown was in that strong-arm robbery and stole cigars from some corner store somewhere. 10 minutes later, he's shot dead by a police officer. And the police say that there was a struggle for the police officer's gun, which, in my mind, within 10 seconds of a struggle for a gun, if somebody gets killed for grabbing for a police officer's gun, within that 10 seconds, I'm calling that self-defense for the police officer, you know? But by eyewitness accounts, that's not exactly what happened. Police officer struggled with the gun, with the guy, and then he ran away and was running, and then he was shot once, turned around, put his hands up, and then many, many bullets afterwards he was dead. Which, I don't feel as bad if that were the case, because I can understand how in the moment that police officer could still be fearing that, you know, he was in danger because he just had that switch flipped in his head. I get that, you know. But, back to what I did wrong. I joined a lot of people, like thousands of people, in sharing the wrong docs. The docs of the person that was not it. The docs that Anonymous had posted to their Twitter and then had their Twitter account suspended for. A lot of major news networks didn't touch the identity of the anonymous suspect at all. They're like, shh, wait. You know, let's get all our ducks in a row. But some of us were like, hey, wait a second. Why is Twitter, you know, deleting stuff, you know, in the midst of a police cover-up? You know, it seems like the police have influenced Twitter to take down this post, you know, which makes it part of the police cover-up. They're still trying to suppress this guy's information. And that's where, you know, my perception of this whole thing left, where many of my friends who were talking with me at the moment that I got pissed off, many of my friends would not have done what I did. Sea Beach, Beacho, he was talking to me. Brian J 1962, Exiled, they were all in the thread that you could click on and see, because I'm not trying to hide that I'm wrong. I'm just like, now that I know that this is the wrong guy, I don't want to keep that picture up on my Facebook. But the fact that I was wrong, you know, if you would like to speak as to poning me, go right ahead. I will take my spanking. But in making this video, I want to say that many people say, well, all of my arguments for doing what I did are invalidated by the police coming out with the right suspect. You know, or the right perpetrator or cop who done it. What should you call him? My questions that arise from that are, after the fact things had nothing to do with my mindset at the time. So did I just put myself out there to where somebody else could make me wronger than I was? Was it a gamble, or was I just wrong to begin with by even joining the mob that shared it? Because there are people who liked the original post and then, you know, changed their mind later, unliked it, and then went ahead and spoke to me against doing it. You know, because there's hindsight quarterbacks, I guess. Hindsight computer chair quarterbacks, we'll call them. And the statement was made by a few, like Exiled and Brian J. 1962, that doxing is always wrong. You know, like as a principle, always wrong. And I felt like there was wrong and there was wrong. There was dox him and be wrong, or let police get away with murder wrong. You know, and that was where I departed from many of my friends. That's my level of ethics for doxing. And it is different than many of them. And I feel like it has something to do with my experience with police and my experience in activism. First, whenever a protest over anything happens, the official response from police and investigators will be affected, right? And it will be affected so that mob does not grow bigger and burn down more shit. Okay? They all have Rodney King on their heads. They all have Occupy on their heads. They do not want that shit again. So they're going to do whatever it takes to quell that mob. So, that in mind, the fact that half as many protesters are going to show up this morning to march again today because they learned that Mike Brown stole some cigars, and so they now consider him in the process of fleeing the scene of the crime, and the policeman was tracking him down. You know, that will affect their perception of him. He's now not just a victim, he's responsible for his own death because he stole, right? Well, what if that little bit of information has some other bits of information that undo that later on, you know? The police let as much information out as they needed to quell the mob. They don't care about giving the public information on the case that they desire. They care about giving the public information that will make them go the fuck home and be quiet. So, and this is my perception of police, having seen how police deal with activists firsthand. There are videos on my channel of me watching police destroy Occupy tents and shit because I was there, you know. And do I have some sort of PTSD from that? And I use that term very loosely because I feel healed by now, but my perception of police is very, very different than people who think that police always do what's right. You know, and I don't think that discretion should have been exercised to keep this officer from the regular suspension of duties and putting on desk work only until the investigation's done. I feel like that was like a slap in the face of everyone who's marching. You know, that's if we want to kill you whenever we want to, we will, because if you're committing a crime, if we kill you, then that's at our discretion. Fuck you, I'm not punishing that guy. I'm not doing a proper investigation. You know, when the police chief said the name of the real shooter, he also said he has not received any disciplinary action at all. Not even restricted to desk duty. The guy's still out there doing his job regularly, as far as we know. That's a message. That's saying what the guy did, we can already see was justified, so we're not even going to bother with the formalities of an investigation. You all need to just shut the fuck up. So, Yeah, my opinion of police at all, when they were saying, when Anonymous first put out that picture, the St. Louis Police Department said, no, that's not the guy, right? I didn't trust them. I saw that they said that, and I was like, police are allowed to lie. You know? That's the world we live in. When we can't trust the police, all sorts of ethical problems in how citizens handle themselves arise. You know? All sorts of mayhem ensues. And this was one of them. You know? I can't trust an official channel of information, so I take everything they say with a grain of salt and don't give any weight to it. You know? I'll give you guys a personal example from my life that does not include activism. A year ago from December, I was in a traffic stop. And what happened was the police car pulled up behind me just as I had put my left turn signal on. It was in a residential area. There was no traffic light or anything, just 4 stop signs, right? That police car, I couldn't tell it was a police car, right? It's night. He put his headlights underneath where I could be able to see them with my Suburban. All I knew was his bumper is very close to mine. So as I'm coming to a complete stop, as I'm getting there, I see this person about to bump my bumper. So I crawl into the intersection. There's no other cars around, but I crawl into the intersection to get the fuck away from him, right? And then I make my left turn. Lights go up, you know? So I pull over, and the guy tells me that he's pulling me over because I didn't come to a complete stop when I made my left turn. Wants to see my license and registration and stuff. The whole time I'm thinking, this guy's got a quota that he needs to fill, and he's found a technique to get people to break the law. He's found a technique of, inching closer and closer to you to make you take your foot off the brake and crawl forward. And now I'm getting a ticket for it. That's my experience with the police. Okay? My experience is whenever I see them, they are not there to protect me. They're there because they want to get me on some little thing that I did wrong. You know? They're there because I'm affiliated with something that the mayor doesn't like. They're there to enforce something that I am protesting against. They're there because I'm seen as a threat to something by me having a camera. You know? That's my perception of the police, and that really does feed into the decisions that I made in sharing that photo. You know? I don't expect anyone to understand if they haven't been through that. And that's why I welcome the ethical talks. You know, I would love to go back to a time when I felt like law enforcement weren't thugs themselves. You know, I'd love to think that law enforcement wasn't the biggest gang in America. You know, I'd love to think that they weren't serving corporate needs all the time. And basically just paid to enforce the wishes of the corporates, the corporate fucking fuckers who buy politicians and make laws in their favor in order to fuck the people, right? That's just my experience. And it hasn't always been this way. So as I shared that doc, I would hope that anyone who wants to make this the ponage, if they do, I would hope they read further and see how, yes, I know that doxing is wrong, and I was weighing it against other wrongs. And in this case, it's all fucked up. You know? And the chance that this guy would have a brick thrown through what I would suppose would be an empty house, because the guy's probably split by now. He's on vacation, I would hope. You know, the chance that a brick would be thrown through his window is a lot more, I guess, livable for me than thinking that because the guy belongs to the biggest gang in America, he can just get away with murder. As a side tangent, I just happened to be watching a lot of videos before I did that from another YouTuber. His channel is Buds131, BUDS131. And every week, this former Navy SEAL, he doxes phony Navy SEALs. And by phony, sometimes the proof that he has is the guy submitted a resume saying that he was a Navy SEAL and that he got the Purple Heart, the Bronze Star, the Silver Star, all these other awards, things that can be researched. And so he takes the phony resume and posts it right here, right up in his YouTube video. And he puts the guy's real name that he uses to try to get employment, up on his video and says, this guy is a phony, And in one of the videos that I watched like 10 or 12 of them. In one of them, it's one of his latest videos, he says, I make sure I have all my ducks in a row because if this was a real SEAL, he'd show up on my doorstep and he'd punch me in the face. Right? Then I watched a video where the guy made a compilation of different people who had the SEAL insignia tattooed on them. Now, this could be just the regular one with the trident through the anchor, for the Navy, with the eagle on top. Or it could be the skeletal bone frog holding a trident. Apparently the skeleton of a frog is a SEAL symbol, not a seal, because I guess that would be too cute. So they went for a reptile or amphibian thing, and then they made it skeletal because that's more like, I guess, cool. But these people have this tattoo, and then they're on Google Images or on Facebook with their tattoo showing. This guy makes a big compilation of them, but then some of them he'll call, and as part of his phony SEAL of the week, he will call them up and say, hey, you have this tattoo. Only 3 seals out of 1,000 have a tattoo like that. You are a phony fake, and I'm putting you on YouTube because you're fake. And sometimes the response that he gets is, that tattoo is a tribute to one of my friends that died. And Buds131, his real name's Don Shipley, and he says it in his videos, he rejects that explanation outright from anyone who uses it. He says, no, it's never a tribute. It's never just a fanboy. It's somebody impersonating a seal. And so I'm going to dox them and ruin their life, because anyone who ever gets Googled by a prospective employer, you know, if a channel the size of his puts their name in the title of a video, it's going to come up in the first page of results on Google. So he's made the decision that it's okay to call these guys frauds, even if they have a plausible explanation. And I've got to think that at least 1 or 2 of them are just fanboys who like Call of Duty, you know, who really don't want to impersonate anything. They just like the symbol, you know. People who get a rose tattooed on their arm are not impersonating florists as a rule. So this guy is doxing some people that deserve it because they have used false credentials. We even have a law about that called the Stolen Valor Law, where it's illegal to say that you have earned an award in the military if you have not. It's a federal crime. So he's doing some good in the world, but some of what he's doing is questionable. But it's entertaining, and that's why people don't call him out for it. So I'm making this video, and I'll make the proof available, link in the description box. And I don't expect, even if you're a friend of mine or you think that I'm entertaining, if you have something to say and you need to use me as the example or fall guy for all of us that shared that photo, go right ahead, you know, because I don't think that whether somebody is liked or they're part of a clique or a club or anything should get them out of answering for what they've done, you know. So that's it for this ramble. Next video, I promise, will be more lighthearted.